So the next speaker is Cormac Barry, Chief Executive of SportsBet. Hailing from Dublin, Cormac began working for Paddy Power 15 years ago in 2000. He was instrumental in the setup, launch and development of the interacting betting division of Paddy Power Bookmakers betting operations, which has become recognised as a global leader in online wagering and gaming. When Paddy Power bought into the Australian online entertainment market with the purchase of SportsBet in July 2009, Cormac moved to Melbourne to act as SportsBet's commercial director. With the completion of the sale of SportsBet to Paddy Power finalised in March 2011, Cormac was appointed CEO. Please join me in welcoming Cormac.
Today I'm going to talk to you about what I believe are some key components in building a culture in a company. I don't think this is a unique prescription. I think it could apply to a lot of companies. So hopefully you'll learn something today that'll be useful to you where you and your company are on your journey. When I became CEO of SportsBet in 2011, I felt I had a unique opportunity to create a really, really special company. We were in a high-growth sector. I had a lot of autonomy from our parent organisation in Dublin. We had their firm and complete backing. The company had a good culture, it had a great brand, and had great momentum. So I felt we had a license to create something really, really exciting. Not only that, I felt because the market was immature and really in an embryonic stage, I felt we had an opportunity to become the Amazon of betting in Australia. We could become the next Seek.com, the next realestate.com, and become synonymous with the product we offered. And what I really wanted to achieve was a company where, when people reflected on their careers, so in 30 or 40 years' time, they would look back in the time they spent at SportsBet and think of it as the most challenging, the most rewarding, the most interesting and fun part of their career. Left my clicker behind. So first of all, for any of those of you who are not familiar with SportsBet or who've lived under a rock and not seen anywhere advertising for the last 4 or 5 years, I'm just going to give you a quick 40-second intro to the public face of SportsBet. So, first of all, I'm just going to give you a little bit of history to the sector, which is sort of relevant to give you some understanding of the context of the business and the sector we work in, which is an incredibly dynamic, fast-changing e-commerce sector. If I take you back to 2005, Matt Tripp, who is a legend in bookmaking circles, saw an opportunity to buy a business that was effectively dormant. SportsBet was a business licensed in Darwin. It had a URL, sportsbet.com. It had a license and not a whole lot else. He bought that business and he started building that business under the radar. And at the time, wagering in Australia was a highly regulated industry and basically controlled by a small number of monopoly players. And Matt was taking a bet that at some point the market would open up. And that's exactly what happened. In a landmark court case in 2007, Betfair against WA, the High Court ruled that effectively if you were licensed in one state, you could advertise in any state. And that's the trigger for the avalanche of bets and the market share land grab and the intense fight that you've observed over the last 5 years. Paddy Power, we were watching this from afar. I came down to Australia on business development trips in 2007 and 2008, and we liked what we saw. We saw a rich economy. We saw an economy that was passionate about sport. It loved racing. It spoke English. It was ticking a lot of boxes. It was regulated. It paid tax. It was a sustainable market. So we were very excited about this. So we set out to enter the Australian market. We felt the competitors were too strong to come in organically, so we decided we were going to buy some companies. So we did a deal with Matt Tripp. There was a great cultural fit between the Australians and the Irish, and that kicked off to a strong start. We then bought another business called IISbet, and we went about merging the Paddy Power culture with the SportsBet culture, with the IIS culture. We merged a whole load of technology. We hired a whole load of people. So it was a period of great change. but nonetheless, we remained the momentum of the success of the company. In 2011, Paddy Power bought out the whole business, and that was the trigger for us to really supercharge our investment. Paddy Power's strategy had always been about investing incredibly aggressively in marketing, in people, and technology, and this time it was going to be no different. And the results of this have been phenomenal. So every business metric in this business has accelerated its growth over time. So whether it is customer numbers, whether it is profit, whether it is revenue, whether it is operating margin, the company has been a runaway success story. Just to give you a few facts, SportsBet today has over 2 million customers. We will generate more than $500 million in revenue this year. We'll do more than $5 billion in turnover. We now have more than 600 staff, starting from 50 staff in 2009. And so we have completely outperformed any normal business, but we've also outperformed the market. So the online betting market in Australia grows about 15% a year. We're currently growing at 50% a year. And I absolutely believe that the key difference we have between ourselves and our competitors is our culture. Every player in the market has the same access to capital, marketing, people, technology. So the only key difference and the core difference that we bring to bear is our culture. And today I'm going to tell you the story about how we built that high-performing culture. So let me take you back to 2011. I'd become a CEO. I've been very successful in my career to date. I was fundamentally a doer. I was good at getting tasks done. I was good at getting results done. I was sort of pretty pleased with myself. I was 36. I was a CEO. I felt my career was going pretty well. I was also aware I had some less appealing characteristics. So I was quite aggressive. I was intense. I could be confrontational. I was stressed. I sort of understood that you needed to be different as a leader. The role of CEO is a very unique and different position, so I needed to act differently. I needed to behave differently. So I do what most people do when they become a CEO. They get a coach. They get a personal trainer. They go to gym regularly. And they sort of start acting differently, and they change a little bit, but really, they stay the same. I'm glad that's resonating. So from that point, I set out to hire the best management team I could find. And I knew that to create the special company I wanted to create, that I needed a really, really strong HR director. And after much persuasion, Tanya, who's here today in the front row, agreed to join us. It was just a 4-hour grilling as I begged her to come and join us and help me on this journey. But she finally came aboard, and she took me and the management team on a journey that we are still on today. And the two early pieces that we really focused on were the development of the management team and our personal development. And in myself in particular, I'll tell you a bit about my own development. So I have a very, very strong and distinct memory of the first time I did LSI with Matt, who's here in the front row today. And it was a 2-day process. We originally did a survival exercise, which we were exceptional at. So I was feeling pretty good about that. And then we sort of did the self-perception, which was a bit red. You know, I thought that was okay. What's wrong with being competitive? Yeah, never done me any harm. So then we handed out the LSI profiles, the circumplexes. And I was thinking, well, everyone's going to have one of these. They're all going to look red. So they handed them out. And we put them all on the floor. And that's that sort of OMG moment. And, you know, I could put an F between the M and the G, to be quite honest. So I looked around the room, and 3 of the profiles were red. They're all the people who'd worked for Paddy Power. And 3 of the profiles were normal people. So they were blue. They were blue, they were red, they were green. When they were sort of balanced individuals, and they were generally blue. And I was like, oh, this is a bit odd, because they're pretty successful people too. And as the sort of... and it sort of implied there was another way, but I was still a little bit skeptical. So I'm very committed to personal development, and I sort of, over the years, I'd done some counseling and therapy and stuff, and I'm sort of reasonably self-aware, or so I thought. So I went on a journey for the next year and really encouraged feedback and tried to understand behaviors and the impact of those behaviors, and the management team did a lot of work together, and we wrote mission statements about the kind of people we wanted to be. And so a year later, being a sort of highly competitive, perfectionistic, achievement-orientated kind of guy, I was expecting my profile to look very different. So I was pretty gutted about this. I had put it in my bonus targets. I'd stuck the profile on my wall. This was a pretty public journey I was on. So I was, Matt slowly talked me away from the cliff, and he said, this is not bad, actually, and when I looked at it, all my reds were lower, all my greens were lower, all my blues were higher. So I was making a change. There was an impact. I was beginning to start on that journey. So I recommitted. So I went again, and I looked harder and asked myself deeper questions about how I behaved and create stronger feedback loops, and really brought the conversation about personal development to the core of what me and myself and the management team talked about on a regular basis. So, unsurprisingly, I've never resat the LSI, twice bitten and all that. This is my current LI impact profile. So myself and the management team did the Leadership Impact Program earlier in the year. Now, what I would actually be curious now that I've seen this to resit my LSI, but what this does show is that my behavior now drives blue behavior. So I have got to a point where what I do, my dominant profile is achievement, all my dominant profile is blue, etc., etc. So I'm still red. That oppositional one still haunts me. But certainly it shows that we have made a change and that you can make a change over time. But my message to you around it is don't give up early. Keep at it. It's really, really hard. And you really have to look at yourself in the mirror again and again and again. And you really have to create that conversation with the people you trust to encourage you to change and for you to encourage them to change. And I encourage you to create a shared journey between you and your work colleagues if you go down this road. So we've done a bit of work on ourselves, and we were working better as a team. We understood more about each other as a team, and the business was still doing pretty well. And because SportsBet was a young and new company, it didn't have a history. It didn't have a defined purpose. It didn't have its values defined. So we really had to talk about what was the why of SportsBet? Why did we exist? What was our purpose in life? And this is quite a challenging question when you work in gambling, because are you just there to make money? There's many, many negative effects to gambling, but there's many, many positive effects to gambling that are probably less known. Our staff needed to understand why we exist, and they needed to understand the strategy of the business and how we existed. And we also need to tell the staff how we wanted them to behave to create the culture we were looking for. So what I'm going to play for you now is a video that we used when we launched our strategy, purpose, and values. It's a couple of years old, but I think it stands the test of time.
In 2012, we started thinking about how we could clearly articulate where we wanted SportsBet to be in the future, and this led to the development of our purpose and objectives. When I became CEO, my goal was to create a really successful, market-leading company that was great to work in and had a very strong culture. To make this happen, it was important that we defined our purpose so that current and future team members understand SportsBet reasons for being. Sounds pretty straightforward, but when we agreed that our purpose was to add excitement to life, it was for a number of important reasons. Because making money is not sufficient to explain why we exist for both our team members and our customers. Internally, it unites our team members around a common purpose. This is the true foundation of collaboration. Externally, it tells our customers what we stand for and sends a positive message about what we do. And also to provide balance against the ongoing onslaught of negative publicity relating to gambling and its effects on society. What we landed on was: as I was then, I'm still very comfortable that adding excitement to life is what it's all about at SportsBet. It's a simple, positive and aspirational purpose. It explains our role in society and it's credible. And to add credence, Paddy Power also adopted this purpose as the Paddy Power Group purpose. We landed on 4 key organisational objectives that would enable us to add excitement to life. These were: people. At SportsBet, we develop the best in a fun and full-on environment. Customer. At SportsBet, we put the customer at the centre of all decisions to keep creating an experience that exceeds expectations. Performance. At SportsBet, we work fast, smart and simple. Product. At Sportsbet, we deliver an intuitive, fast and evolving betting experience. Fast forward to mid-2013 and what have we got? We now know that to add excitement to life is why we're here. And the 4 objectives and important actions that underpin them told us what we needed to deliver. It's all well and good knowing what we have to do, but equally important is to be able to articulate how we're going to go about it, which brought us our values. So a whole bunch of us across Paddy Power and SportsBet got together to figure them out. We landed on 5 core values. Fun. We are here to enjoy ourselves. Life is short. Collaborative. We succeed as a team. Curious. We are questioning and fact-based. Fair. We treat everyone honestly and with respect. Competitive. We are driven and resilient.
So that's what we came up with, and that was really the start of driving a common and shared understanding of what the company was about. It was the start of having shared objectives, and it was the start of really understanding how we wanted people in the organisation to behave. And this has been immensely powerful. The productivity of the company has been transformed. It's almost hard to comprehend the rate at which it's changed. But to have everyone in the company aligned to doing the exact same thing, to know where they fit in. And the great thing about what it does, it empowers people to make decisions without having to escalate. So if they know what the most important thing they have to do, they don't have to think about it, they don't have to ask someone's advice, they can just go do it. So creating context and creating a strategy and creating a common understanding is really important for empowerment. And that ability to delegate down through the organisation is what will drive productivity. And as we develop down this road, we now hire people against these values. We've sort of changed the structure, so they've now got looser. So we now let people just pick 6 things they're going to do a year that will drive the company, and they can have some BAU objectives as well. But the more you empower and delegate, and the more freedom you give to people to create their own reality and to create their own way to contribute to the company, the stronger your business will be. So our next wake-up call, as part of our commitment to people and engagement, we started running the Aon Hewitt engagement survey. And we'd started this in 2012, and our initial score was 62%. And for those of you not familiar with the tool, 62% is a reasonable score. You're sort of the top end of the sort of middle companies. And in order to be a highly performing company, you need to be in the top 25, or the top quartile, which means you need an engagement score of 65 or more. So we ran the survey the first year, 62, good start. We then rolled out the strategy, the values. We invested heavily in communication. We started doing town halls. We got much better at our email communication. The results in the company were phenomenal. So I obviously expected that the engagement score to materially rise, but it didn't. It stayed flat year on year. So once myself and the management team gutted. We really based our whole year on improving the engagement and the culture of the company, and we were using this as a measure of that outcome. So we went out to the staff and we held workshops with the staff. We ran additional surveys. We looked into the data within the survey, and the staff told us lots of things. They wanted more input into the strategy. They wanted more context on the industry. They wanted more transparent reward mechanisms. They wanted to give more to the community. They wanted more control of their day-to-day lives. They wanted more personal development. To really sum it up, they just wanted to work for a better company. And I wholeheartedly agree with them. I wanted to work for a better company too. And this was really a catalyst for the next 3 pieces of the jigsaw which we focused on. So we focused very heavily on leadership development, on the environment, on communication. And I'm just going to take you through each 3 of those components, give you an insight into some of the practical things we did. So in terms of the environment, our offices are on Collins Street in Melbourne, so we've now got 7 floors. We've got probably over 550 staff in Melbourne. So this was a big step. We decided to redo all the offices from scratch, and we decided to design and lay out the office driven by the values we had defined. So we wanted to create a collaborative environment. We wanted to create an environment that fostered communication. We wanted an environment that was tech-enabled. We wanted one that had equality at its core, and we wanted one that would drive the productivity of the business. So we went open plan. 30% of the floor space in the building is collaborative. We put in stand-up areas. We put in rideable walls. We made a very large podium area for shared and communal events. We put in internal staircases, and not a small commitment. Every internal staircase costs you 200 grand, so an extra $1 million on the build just to put in internal staircases. Hugely effective, transformational in terms of the environment, the company, communication, face-to-face time, engagement. And I think it's easy to underestimate how important the environment is, so I strongly recommend you focus on your work environment. So this is one of our less successful communication ventures. So as part of our earlier drive around communication, we decided we'd set up an intranet. We researched this pretty trendy tool called Jive, which is a bit like an internal Facebook, a bit like Yammer, but a bit better. And we set it up with great intentions, but it didn't work. So we didn't really plan it very well. We didn't have clear core objectives. We implemented inconsistently across different departments. We didn't really engage with it. It didn't work on mobile, which, for our staff, it may as well not work at all. So we went back to the drawing board, and Belle, who is here today, led a project to fix it. And so we secretly went around. We went back, with our tail between our legs, and we thought long and hard about how to do it, and we started again. And we didn't do a big bang. We just slowly, incrementally changed it and made it better. And then one day, we put up these posters all around the building, and Sparkle was the name of the internet, and said, sorry, that was a dog. That was terrible. We humbly apologize for insulting you with that offer. And then we relaunched it. And credit to Belle and the team, it's now a vastly successful hub that drives communication with the business. I regularly blog on it. There's leaders' locker rooms, there's banter, there's social, it's on people's mobile, it's on their desktop. So we now use this as our primary form of communication. We don't email each other. That's how ingrained it has become. And once again, this is just a story about just because you fail the first time, don't give up. Keep doing it. And these things are very public, and people tend to get very, very nervous about putting their name to these types of things, and you're going to get it wrong. So expect you're going to get a few things wrong, but keep at it. Next, we've been focusing on executive and leadership team development. Because the business is growing so rapidly, so we've moved from about 200 employees to 600 employees in the last 4 years, it became increasingly important to invest in the skills and tools that we needed for the business to scale. And absolutely core to that is the leadership team. So we've got about 100 people managers in SportsBet, and so we set out to try and give them the skills to help them build and grow the business. So initially we did what everyone does. We set up an iLead management program, pretty basic skills, pretty generic, didn't really move the needle. Yeah, everyone sort of, that's okay. And we thought, okay, that's not good enough. So once again, we need to go again. We need to innovate. We need to think more radically about how to do this. So in the past year, we've run a leadership summit where all our leaders came together. We brought in guest speakers, and we brought in interactive role-play games, and everyone had a process to set out what kind of leader they wanted to be and how they wanted to behave. We've created leadership syndicates, so groups of leaders across the business get together on a regular basis. They go out to lunch together, and they share their leadership experiences between each other. We have invented what we call the Game Changer program. So the HR staff, in combination with the innovation team, have created a program which is designed to get people to think big, to innovate, to change, to empower themselves, which is radically different than what you're going to get in your average management course about how to manage people and that you should talk to them every 2 weeks and other such game-changing insights. We've defined what we expect, what leadership behaviors we expect. We've run a survey, 180 survey, all people leaders with all the staff. So we've really made leadership part of the conversation. And one of the things that came out of our engagement survey when it was not so hot, that they didn't think we, as a bunch of leaders, were good enough. So we took that to heart and tried to raise our game. The other core thing we've done is focused really, really heavy on talent for everyone in the organization. And as an organisation, we intend for our core differentiator to be, in terms of an employee value proposition, is on talent development. So it is our aim to be the #1 company in Australia to work for if you want to stretch yourself, develop your career, learn those new skills. So on this slide, you've got some pictures from our first Career Development Fest. So this is we ran this in the Spiegel tent in the Melbourne Docklands, and this is an event where people got together, and we as a management team went down as coaches, and departments explained what they did. People gave talks on different skills. People talked about their life journey and their journey within becoming a leader and how they'd gone about that. And people could book sessions in with the leadership team, book sessions in with experts we brought in, and it was a phenomenal event and created great engagement and great conversation around the story around personal development. And I shared my own personal development story in a bit more detail than I have done today, but you got the general gist of it. We've also invested heavily in aggressively moving talent. So we've identified the best and brightest in the company, and we've moved them cross-functionally. We've moved them around the globe, so they're working in Dublin and London, they're working in Melbourne. We've moved people from online analytics to run operations. We've taken people from risk into retention. We currently have someone from HR working in an innovation sprint to work on cutting-edge geolocation technologies. So what we are doing is aggressively empowering people with the story that they need to develop a series of rounded skills in order to develop. And in a world where the skills are getting so specialized, it's almost impossible to create leaders who have a collective understanding of a business unless you aggressively move them around the business and grow that collective understanding so you can credibly create the leaders of the next generation. What else have we done in talent? 35% of roles in the company this year were filled internally, which is an impressive number when we hired 120 people. So we're forever driving this agenda and pushing this agenda for people to change their perceptions, their ideas. And we no longer have structured development plans. We no longer have a form everyone has to fill out. If you want to have a form, knock yourself out. But I expect you and your manager and your colleagues to be having regular conversations about how you're going to develop yourself and your career. And I firmly believe that what the modern employee wants is what they can get out of the company for themselves and what contribution they can make to society through that. And I think those two components need to be married together. And I think in order to create that culture of personal development, it is imperative on the CEO and the leadership of the business to tell their stories and share those stories. And I think the power of being vulnerable and telling those stories and talking about your journey creates a business that has more confidence, that is more innovative, that is more risk-taking, that is more productive. And perhaps best of all, you can create a business where, due to the fact that people work in your company, they end up being better people, which I think is a great contribution to make to life. So I'm going to close now on a video. It's a little self-indulgent. It's about 4.5 minutes long. And I asked Belle and the team to come up with a video that will tell you what the culture of Sportsbet is like. I quite enjoy watching this, so hopefully you will too.
I describe it as a learning organisation because it's always looking outside and internally about how it can improve.
I describe it as a kind of family type company. You know, you come in here and you're not working beside your colleagues, you're working beside your friends, you're working beside people that you genuinely care about.
We're part of a larger global company that embraces our ideas, embraces us as a culture as well.
It's a business that has an amazing range of data and analytics, but at the same time has never lost touch of gut feel and an artistic approach to the solution.
We can go from conceptualizing ideas to actually getting it off the ground and executing it in such a short turnaround.
Focus on helping people grow into different careers, moving around the globe to different positions across the company.
Everyone's really jealous of my mates and family members. There's not many places you get to do your job and watch sport all the time, and also racing.
Innovative online environment that's you'd like to think is pretty cutting edge.
Despite being the market leader in a number of different areas, everyone's always challenging themselves to push for the best.
Irrespective of your seniority, there's an opportunity for everyone to develop themselves on a daily basis and in really meaningful ways.
Got a full-time job down here, loved it, was looked after, met my wife that year, two beautiful kids in Australia, and SportsBet is very much my future.
SportsBet's just a fun environment, like you learn so much.
The horizontal structure means that you've got access to those people and you can have conversations with them about what's happening in their world, and then they get an insight into your job as well.
There just seems to be more willing to talk and engage, which is good.
We're all very specialised in what we do, so we're all technical specialists. So you know that when you're getting the opinion of someone else or collaborating with another team member, that they're the best in class. And anything we sort of put to market is a combination of all these specialists that have come together and worked on a project.
Putting great products into the hands of our customers and being able to add a little bit of excitement to their lives through the things that we do every day.
We're market leaders in our responsibility as well. We do much more than any other organisation in our industry locally around problem gaming.
It's somewhere that I've found really looks after its employees.
There's just so many things that go on. Onesie days, everyone has to come in wearing a onesie.
People felt out of place if they didn't wear one. But just the whole day was just an amazing time.
The standout for me was when we went down and had our career dev first down at the Spiegel tent.
You can take your career as far as you want to take it. There's no one kind of stopping you really, and you can do as much as you want to do.
There's been so much movement internally this year alone. Over 30% of the roles we filled this year have gone to internal resources, be they lateral moves or moves up the ladder.
Probably one of the best SportsBet moments is any of the Melbourne Cup days where there's a real buzz around the office, a lot of fun things happening, and it's actually a great day to be at work.
Once the footy ramps up, it's hard not to get caught up in footy tipping and all the events around footy. When the stunts are on, you can't help but really latch on and feel proud.
My best moment of SportsBet was winning a can line for some radio work that we did for our cash-out product.
There's the commitment from the leadership, the commitment from the CEO down to make sure that we have that work-life balance, that we know how to work hard but play hard.
Every Friday after 4, a different team gets to create an obstacle course or a game. We've had goal kicking, we've had mini golf, we've had beer pong. It's sort of a good way to finish the week on a high.
So I think there's a bit of something for everyone here, and having those fun activities allows people to bond and form those relationships that I think a lot of organisations try to do, but here you can't help but be involved because it's quite infectious.
If you look across all the different teams, there is something that very much binds us all together, and I think that's unique to SportsBet is the people and that cultural identity that we have.
I'm passionate about the customer and want everyone to love the customer as much as I do.
There's so much going on to make everyone feel valued, and I think that's what brings everything to life.
Talented.
Ambitious.
Astonishing.
Entertaining.
Choice bro.
Epic.
Enjoyable.
Relaxed.
Okay, the new.
Game changer.
Endless opportunities.
Kaizen.
Up and about.
Energetic.
Fast. Fun.
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 I'd say what makes SportsBet a unique place to work is that it is a really fun product. Oh no, fuck that. That sounds wanky.
I'll just leave you one final last thought. If you are thinking about going on this journey, or if you've been trying to go on this journey and you're struggling, go again, go harder, because it's incredibly rewarding to create a special company.